whatever path you are on, whatever inspired you to come here today, we honor you and we welcome you. And now, our message.
All right, so let's just take a breath for a moment. I have to put my other hat on, my other set of ears. I took mine off because I can't put my glasses on and off with those ears on. They kept falling off. So this month we've been talking about grace. The theme for March is grace. And at the beginning of the month we had Cliff Edwards come, and he delivered a message on the F word. Was anyone here for that F word? It was the forgiveness word, not the other F word. And so as I thought about forgiveness, and I was doing my meditation this week, I came across a quote or a passage, a verse from A Course in Miracles. And it said, "Look upon the world with forgiving eyes. For forgiveness literally transforms vision and lets you see the real world, reaching quietly and gently across chaos, moving all illusions that have twisted your perception and fixed it on the past. To forgive is merely to remember only the loving thoughts you gave in the past and those that were given to you. All the rest must be forgotten." So, as we work with forgiving the past and letting things go and not wishing or hoping or obsessing about the past being any different than the way it was, and that's sort of my definition of forgiveness, allowing the past to be the past, not wishing it had been any different, but truly knowing that there were great gifts through all of the life's ups and downs. And so when we can be in the moment, forgive the past, let go of the past, that's when we enter into a state of grace about that, about the past. So that's what Cliff talked about. And some of you did a workshop and went through lots of processes on forgiveness. And so I hope that idea of opening up to grace through the process of forgiveness has been serving you. And then I talked about the fact that science is now proving that we can create a more healthy brain. We can actually change our brains, our physical brain, our body, through the simple act of thinking positively, doing things for our bodies that add health to us, diet, exercise, that we can actually affect our brains through what we think, how we act, and how we take care of ourselves. And doesn't that open us up to a greater sense of grace? And then I talked about choices last week, elegant choices. Ernest Holmes says, change your thinking and change your life. Each of us has the ability to choose thoughts, to choose actions that enter us into a greater state of grace. So as I was pondering this week on what to talk about, I thought, how can I explain how I personally enter into a state of grace in the middle of chaos, in the middle of difficult thoughts, in the middle of being in situations that are stressful for me? How can I find a sense of peace and grace? So I went to two things that really, really serve me in staying in a place of grace, or being open to allowing grace, I should say, because grace is the natural order of things. Grace is the natural order of things. It's us becoming available and allowing and open to that state of grace. So two things that I find are most helpful. One is studying the Tao, the Taoist wisdom. Has anyone spent time reading that ancient Chinese text, the Tao? amazing book written 600 years before the Common Era. So 600 years before the birth of Christ, around the same time as the Buddha was walking the earth, the Tao, the Jing, was written. And it was given credit to Lao Tzu, who was a philosopher, who was a sage, who was someone that practiced Taoism. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about Taoism as a way to move into a greater field of grace. And I'm also going to talk about the work of Byron Katie. Has anyone experienced the work of Byron Katie? Those two things are what bring me most in alignment with a greater sense of peace with reality. So I've titled my talk, The Tao of Reality. The Tao of Reality. So the Tao can be translated as the way, the natural way. The natural way of reality. So Byron Katie says of reality, when you argue with reality, you lose only 100% of the time. So, what does that mean when you argue with reality? When you argue with the way of things, the Tao of things? Because there's a natural order in the universe, isn't there? And the Taoist sages would, instead of studying sacred texts, would go to nature. They would sit in the silence with nature to receive nature's wisdom. Because long before there were Homo sapiens, there was a great sense of peace. I'm sure that since our arrival, we've created quite a lot of havoc and chaos, do you think? So when we go back before humans were here, imagine the peace. Imagine the peace that was there. So that's what the Taoist sages would do. They would leave society, leave humans, and they'd go off by themselves and sit in nature to be fed with the wisdom that nature has. So what is it within us that receives that wisdom? What is it within us that aligns with that wisdom? I think it's our soul or our spirit. And so when we're in nature and we're quiet, we can feel that great wisdom because there's nothing distracting our minds. Well, there could be, if you choose that. But we can move into a greater sense of being one with nature because we truly are one with nature. We're no different than anything else in the universe. We're just part of this one great happening, this one great nature of things. So that's what the Taoists did. So I want to talk a little bit about the Tao of reality. The Taoist masters say, reality is what we take to be true. What we take to be true is what we believe. What we believe is based on our perceptions. What we perceive depends on what we look for. What we look for depends on what we think. And what we think depends on what we perceive. And what we perceive determines what we believe. And what we believe determines what we take to be true. What we take to be true is our reality. So can you see all of those filters? There's reality as it is, and then we take it in, and we have beliefs and perceptions, and we organize it, we create stories, and then it becomes our truth, our reality. Now that could be positive, that could be negative, that could be happy, that could be sad. It all depends on you. It all depends on me. Each of us have the ability to perceive reality however we want it. So how are you perceiving reality? And you can look at your life to find out, because your life will reflect back to you all the time. It's a perfect mirror image of your beliefs. That's what we live, breathe, and move in. our reality. So the good thing is we can change that. If there's something that we don't like, if there's something we're experiencing that we don't like, we can begin to think new thoughts, to create a new reality for ourselves, dream a new reality for ourselves. We have this amazing tool called the imagination, that we can actually imagine a bigger life. We can imagine a deeper life. We can imagine a more passionate life, a more meaningful spiritual life. We get to do that. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Zen Buddhist, says, for things to reveal themselves to us, we need to be ready to abandon our views about them.
Can you read that one again, Alan?
Yes. For things to reveal themselves to us, we need to be ready to abandon our views about them. We are so not conditioned to do that. We are conditioned to have lots of views and opinions. That's what we went to school for, to establish a whole list of opinions and ideas about things. Could you drop some of those? Maybe you've been taught some things that truly don't serve you now. And so maybe you're ready to drop those stories so you can see things for how they really are. How they really are. Can you imagine? Imagine maybe something that's going on in your life that's difficult. Just maybe close your eyes for a moment and bring that to mind. Some situation that you're struggling with. Relationship. Situation at work. Something going on in your family. And imagine that. And imagine dropping that, all of your judgments and opinions about it for a moment. Just completely letting go of your story surrounding that situation, that relationship, as though it had never occurred to you that it was difficult, that it was challenging, and just see it through the eyes of reality. See it without your story attached to it. And just notice if it doesn't open up some space. A greater perspective probably is bubbling up in you right now as you begin to look at reality, the situation, the relationship, whatever that thing is, that circumstance, without the filter of your story. It opens you up to maybe have different feelings, different thoughts about it. Maybe it isn't so difficult or scary as your brain, as your ego, as your mind has it outlined. So take a breath. And open your eyes. So it's that simple. We can take a thought or a belief we have about something our mind thinks is real or thinks is difficult, and we can simply ask ourselves, is it even true? Is it true? And then we can ask ourselves, how does it feel when I believe that thought? And then we can ask ourselves, who would I be without that thought? And that's what we just did with that little exercise. You had a look at something that's going on in your world, and you asked yourself, how would it be without that thought, that story? And you had maybe a deeper look into reality as it is. So where's our clock? Do we have time? Anyone?
11:42.
Quarter to 12.
Okay, thank you. I usually have a little clock, so I'm looking at it. So there's an interesting concept with Tao, and it's called Wu Wei. Wu Wei. And yeah, don't you love that? Wu Wei. Wei, Wu Wei. one of Taoism's most important concepts, which is sometimes translated as non-doing or non-action. A best way to think of it, however, is a paradoxical, it's the action of non-action. The action of non-action. It refers to the cultivation of a state of being in which our actions are quite effortlessly in alignment with the ebb and flow of the elemental cycles of the natural world. It is a kind of going with the flow that is characterized by great ease and awakeness, in which, without even trying, we're able to respond perfectly to whatever situation arises. Have you ever felt that? Have you ever got into that place where you just kind of let go and there's that slogan, let go and let God, or let go and let grace, or when we quit trying and we just allow ourselves to go with that flow, and then the world seems to take on an ease? That's Wu Wei. When we stop grasping or clinging or trying to force something, and we just allow ourselves to be more natural, just like nature is, just like the plants grow without much struggle and strife, just like the trees grow. We can become that easy. And Wu Wei isn't about sitting and not doing anything. It's about doing, but with less effort in it. Kind of the opposite of what we're taught here. We're taught to try hard, put a lot of effort in. But practice that this week. Try that Wu Wei, where you're being with what you're doing. Maybe it's work, maybe it's music, maybe playing an instrument. You could utilize this wisdom, this Taoist wisdom, to be with whatever you're doing with less effort and more presence. That's it. It's doing something, having a conversation, doing your housework, doing your work, whatever, with less effort and more being. It's a greater sense of being, still on the inside, and being with whatever is, whilst you're doing what you need to do. So I thought that The Tao of Pooh by Benjamin Hoff, has anyone read that book? Yeah. It's a great book, and if you haven't read it, it's Winnie the Pooh's, it's not really his take on Taoism because it's written by someone else, but it's Winnie the Pooh introduced to Taoism. And so here's a little quote. It says, "Pooh, the most effortless bear we've seen. Just how do you do it, Pooh?" Pooh says, "Do what? Become so effortless." "I don't do much of anything," he said. "But all those things of yours get done." He said, "They just sort of happen. They just sort of happen." So maybe you can become like Pooh and just allow things to happen. Just let things happen. Can't you think of people right now? There's those that are frantic trying to get things done, and there's those that kind of just everything unfolds and flows. See the contrast of that, and maybe you can experiment with some of Pooh's wisdom. So I wanted to share by the way, we are so grateful that Dr. Pam put so much effort and energy into creating this beautiful auction that we have, all of these baskets, and for everyone that helped fill in while she couldn't be here. She was physically not feeling well enough today to come in, and I know that she's really missing it. She really wanted to be here. So let's just send her lots of love and blessings and great gratitude for all that she did to get these baskets put together, and thank you, John, for delivering them. Pam asked me to come up with some bunny wisdom. So I thought it would be really good to sort of close my talk with some rabbit and bunny wisdom. So if you have any, meet me up afterwards, because I found it to be quite sweet. So the one thing about the rabbit in the Winnie the Pooh story, I don't know if any of you read Winnie the Pooh when you were little. Being from England, it was part of, mandatory nursery rhymes and whatnot in my household. But Rabbit was the very clever one. He was the one that was kind of too clever for his own good. And so Pooh said, "Rabbit's clever," he said thoughtfully. "Yes," said Piglet, "Rabbit's clever. And he has a brain." "Yes," said Piglet, "Rabbit has a brain." And then there was a long silence. "I suppose," said Pooh, "that's why he never understands anything." So the wisdom here, rabbit wisdom here is, don't take your brain, don't take your ego, don't take your cleverness so seriously, because sometimes the greatest wisdom is right there in front of us, and it doesn't involve the brain, it involves the heart. And I think that's what Pooh had. He had a big heart, so he was able to maybe be less clever, but more present. So that's one little bunnyism. And then I got some really sweet wisdom from the Velveteen Rabbit. Did anyone read the Velveteen Rabbit? No? Okay, good. So this is Velveteen Rabbit wisdom. And for those of you that don't know, these are nursery animals in the nursery talking to each other. "What is real?" asked the rabbit one day when they were lying side by side near the nursery fender before Nana came in to tidy the room. "Does it mean having things that buzz inside you and a stick-out handle?" "Real isn't how you're made," said the skin horse. "It's a thing that happens to you when a child loves you for a big ride. When a child loves you for a long, long time, not just to play with, but really loves you, then you become real." "Does it hurt?" asked Rabbit. "Sometimes," said the skin horse, for he was always truthful. So maybe it's as simple as that. Maybe the Tao of Reality is giving yourself permission to love. To love your toys, to love the children in your lives, to love the elders in your lives, to love even those difficult people. Maybe that's why you're here. Maybe that will open you up to being in a more felt state of grace with reality. Because reality isn't always pretty, and reality isn't always kind. But you always have a choice as to how you show up in your reality. So that's my wish for you this week. Namaste. So let us go within. Let us close our eyes and finish with this prayer. And I use these words, and I speak in the first person, but if my words align with your heart and with your soul, please know that they're yours too. So I simply right now become completely aware and recognize there is only one thing happening. It is this thing called life. It is this thing called love. It is the Tao. It is reality. It is the nature of things. And I am one in this. Each sentient being is an individualized expression of life within life. Each of us a part of this amazing, glorious Tao. So knowing this, knowing that we all are all one, that we truly are connected, in this one love. Knowing that each of us have the ability to direct our thoughts, to direct the flow of life itself through our very thoughts. I do that right now, here, for each of us. What I know and accept for myself, what I know and accept to be true, what I realize in this very moment is that I have a choice. I am always confronted with the choice of what I focus my attention on. So today I commit to focusing my attention on what is beautiful, on what is glorious, on what is abundant. I focus my attention on how I can show up as the presence of love and truly give from the heart to all those in need, all those situations and opportunities that present themselves in my life are an opportunity for me to show up as my spiritual self, my most loving, kind, generous, abundant self. So I simply commit to that. I know that each of us have that ability to choose. So let us choose to move in a graceful way with reality by being who we really are. And as we do this, as more of us do this, as we agree to do this, as we come together on this beautiful Sunday to do this, let us know that we're making a difference in our world. And this ripple out, this difference, this vibration, this prayer, this thought, this blessing goes out, because that's what reality does. It takes our thoughts, our energy, and it becomes our reality through the very vibration that we're sending out. So let's send out this blessing. May all beings without exception be strong and healthy and safe. May all beings without exception feel strong in all of their relationships. May all beings without exception live and love with ease. And let's send this blessing out to all beings through all masses of land and all bodies of water, until our whole beautiful planet is aglow with this blessing. Let's send out love, unconditional love. And let's know that this vibration of love goes out into the cosmos, goes out into eternity, knowing that we truly are the ones and now is the time. So bring that blessing back into your heart, anchor it into your body. Give great thanks for your body, for your mind, for all that you experience, for all of the blessings. For this we are blessed, now and always. And so it is.
And so it is.
Namaste.
Thank you for blessing us with your presence today and being a part of the Satya Center. You're invited to join Reverend Ali and Reverend Lyle each Sunday morning at 10 a.m. for your dose of connection, inspiration, and co-creation. The Satya Center is located at 795 24th Street, Ogden, Utah. For directions, a map, and our service times, please see our website, thesatyacenter.org. This program was brought to you by the kind donations from the members of the Satya Center. Thank you.